Way here and now, episode 187. You could jump on board and thank you, Unfiltered Band, the Unfiltered Revolution at Casey Stern on Twitter. Get in Apple, Spotify, everywhere you get your podcasts, and of course on the YouTube channel as well. My guest today, longtime friend, 17 years in the bigs, in a sweet manner patrolling center field, and as long as you don't throw him too many sliders, he's pretty much smiling all the time. And now working in the Mariners system will be part of the Futures game, which I would get into. Obviously, your boy Daz in the Orioles system. I want to talk about the game and all the changes as we welcome in my good friend Mike Cameron. Cam, appreciate this, man. Good to talk to you. How are you, buddy?
Case, what's good, brother? What's good?
I mean, so I gotta start with a funny story, and then I'll get to the ad read and pay off the sponsors, keep people happy. So you can be found on Twitter at mcameron44.
Yeah.
That didn't used to be your Twitter handle. So I realized, so I knew you were on a new Twitter because I know sometimes you tweet at some of the crazy crap that I say, and I see your Twitter pop up. We go back and forth. But I realized yesterday when I saw your bio and your old Twitter handle was still in there, I clicked it, and I'm still following whoever the hell that is.
I don't know. Like, I guess it was at the time when Twitter was kind of like going through a shakeup or whatever. And they was like, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that, da 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 da. I don't think I did it. And then they like locked me out of it. And then I couldn't get back in it anymore. So
it's just sitting there. It's not somebody who hacked it. It's just basically some old Twitter that's just sitting there.
Yeah. So I just I got off it for a little while. Then I got another one. I don't know if it got hacked or not, but I know it was going crazy. So I'm just like, okay, I don't know what's what with this.
Well, I unfollowed you on the other stuff, man. That was a wrap for me.
I got away from the dark, man, and just went straight to my name. So,
well, you get older, you get more boring. You got to go basic and just use your own name. We as always at Unfiltered, presented here by Bet Online, our number one source for your championship finals info, stats, news, and scores. Latest odds and lines, matchup reports for your year's NBA and Stanley Cup finals, your number one sports intel headquarters this season. They got you covered for all your wagering needs, basketball, hockey, MLB, UFC, and boxing. Fastest, easiest way to get all your betting info, live betting options, and your casino and card games available for you right now at your home. So get into the action today. Head over to the website, use the mobile device to join, but make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE, it's BLEAV, to get your 50% bonus on your first deposit. It's Bet Online where the game starts. I want to get started here because I got a lot I want to catch up and get into. But the Futures game, which I covered for many years, obviously I used to help broadcast. SiriusXM does it, and they do a great job with it. I'm looking at I'm thinking, like, can you guys should just form a team instead of a coaching staff. So you're going to be on the National League staff. You got Beltre, you got King Felix, Otero, Joel Pinheiro, Jeremy Reed, Dan Wilson, Randy Wynn. I mean, I know Raul and HR are doing the managing. I mean, what a cool thing that is.
That is a cool thing. That was a slight change. So Harold said that he wanted me to be on his squad, so I got to coach.
You got traded to the AL?
Yeah, I got traded. So
again, I mean, for a guy who had to move so many teams so many times, really?
Yeah, again, unfortunately. And he asked me, he's like, hey, I want to get you on my squad. I said, you got to talk to Raul about that because Raul was the first person to call me. And then Raul was like, all right, that's cool. Because since Raul is loaded. We got all the old heads over there that probably can't throw BP, just going to be sitting around talking. And, we got let's see.
I know Beltre could still play. So you got Dave Valley over by you, right? With Harold.
No chance.
Right. So I mean, you got guys who've been in suits more than they've been in uniforms
exactly
in a long time. So let me see. I think I got the AL group here too. So let me see. So the American League, you got Jamie Moyer, right? You got Buhner, you got Alvin Davis. So they needed a little bit. You're bringing youth to that party.
Exactly.
I think you can run faster than Jamie's throwing it. So, I mean, at least you got that. Because on the other side, I mean, Beltre could still play. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah.
That's he's still in badass shape.
He's got a few guys over there that probably, King probably still can spin it.
Oh, he
Narrows probably still can spin it a little bit. So, yeah, he's definitely got a better squad, like coaching-wise, so to speak.
You know what's crazy about Beltre? So, real quick story. So, in my 20 years covering the game, the only guy I saw that what I would call revered in a clubhouse was
Yeah.
when I covered the Red Sox and covered Poppy during
Yeah.
those years in
Yeah.
04, 05. When I was there covering it with the Rangers during those runs, it
Yeah.
was amazing watching
Man.
and the way that people react to this dude. Now, you were a dude like this, and people reacted to you. And see, I remember your time in Milwaukee with you and CC and guys like that. I mean, all through
Yeah.
your career, you were a guy like that. But Beltray just a different dude when it comes to the way he seems to lead by example and carry himself for other players,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, like I got a chance to play with Beltray, and I played against him for many years, and then I got a chance to play with him in Boston, and man, it was one of the most talented teams I ever been on that didn't win anything because we got hurt. Everybody got hurt, but man, Beltray was like still, above and beyond because he was the one that could. When we had Victor Martinez, Poppy, Adrian Beltray, and little Dustin Pedroia in the same clubhouse.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
like
you
the
got
four.
enough testosterone and ego and people who can handle themselves in there for
Yeah,
plus, I mean,
exactly.
Beltray not wearing a cup. If you're not wearing a cup at third
I've never
base,
seen it like it.
dude, I remember the first time I heard that and I interviewed him about that and asked him, I mean, no wonder why you're so good at defense because God forbid if you're not, I mean, you're going to be laying on the ground. How could you be at third base with dudes
Oh,
like Chef and others sitting there right-handed bats and not be wearing a cup, bro? Are you nuts?
I don't know how he did it, man. He played for so long like that, bro. Like, and it felt like he had a glove. He had two gloves over there.
Yeah.
I know everyone loves to talk about Arenado, like,
Oh,
um,
he's terrific, sure.
yeah, he's great, but man, like, if there was a guy who was Arenado before Arenado was, it was this guy right here, and maybe Scott Rowland. But I still thought that uh, Beltray had the strongest arm out of all of them because the guy could throw. He can flick it any kind of way as long as he got his feet on there, got his feet set up, whatever. And then he was great, man.
That
But
play coming in on a bunt, I mean,
yeah,
and going barehanded, I
the
mean, because he
best.
had that arm, right? I mean, he was as good at
Him,
that as anybody has seen. Ventura used to be great
him,
at that back in the day.
him. I'll say Beltray, Ventura, and obviously today it will be probably Manny Machado.
Yeah.
And obviously you
Because
can't never
that's a for people that's as tough a play as you're ever going to get at that
that angle.
position. Oh my God,
Exactly.
forget it, impossible. But I mean that's why. But that's why they got you on the other squad, so that way you can patrol. I mean, the outfield. Jay not going to move much. I mean, so you're going to
Nah,
be working with the outfielders more than he going to be. You're just trying to work on hitting it out of the ballpark. Not like you couldn't do
yeah,
that as well. But I
yeah,
want to ask you just about baseball, and I know obviously ups and downs this year so far with that team, but
yeah,
and that's just how it goes because when young teams come together, there's always that like to me it's that cat and mouse, like we here, but now the rest of the league knows you're here, and then
yeah,
there's that adjustment period. But for you to see Seattle get back into playoffs, get the
yeah.
All-Star game back, how great is that for you considering the relationship you've got with that community?
I think it's great because this is the first time in 22 years this has been there. Obviously, the team is, I guess, in a different space as far as where they are right now. With the expectancy of being a contributor, late in the season, playoff, postseason run, or whatever it may be. And I think it's just good for the city. They've done some things over there with the new CFO, I think it is, with Katie Griggs. And so like the team is on the up and up. It's just that unfortunately they got out to a bad start offensively. And I when you struggle offensively, it seems like you just don't play well at all. So and then like a lot of the things that everyone expected out of this team still forgot that there's some youth still, Julio's second year, all the pitchers basically their first or second year, Robbie Ray going down, a couple of the new additions, kind of getting out to a slow start with Wong and um, let's see, Wong and AJ and let's see who else. But Teo's starting to turn it around a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah,
You know,
I want to get to the J Rod thing. So, like,
yeah,
here's the thing: is I go back to this is why Mike Trout is literally one of one.
yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
Otani's one of one in a different category, but Mike Trout. Like, I think he went years, and this is legit, without like 3 games in a row not getting on base. Like, this guy
Yeah,
didn't have a bad week, let alone
no,
have a bad month or a bad year. I mean, it's stupid what he did. But you look at
yeah,
Aaron Judge after his first big season, second year, there were people wondering halfway through the season what the hell's wrong, right? And then
yep,
because Vladdy, we saw all the expectations,
yep.
took him a little longer, then he went up, then he went down. Isn't this just par for the course? I can't stand when people get crazy. We're sitting here in June. You know how many times Paul Goldschmidt's been hitting like 200 into June? It's like every year of his career.
Yeah,
There are a lot of times where it takes that full season, right?
yeah,
Especially
yeah.
that second year. What's the toughest part about dealing with the kind of expectations that Julio's kind of dealing with here in year 2?
Well, the Julio kind of just, he's a great player for one, great specimen, and he's just has this like egregious like aura about him. So he's always been expected to be the guy. And with him being just turning 21, I think is, and then getting a major contract and then like blowing on the scene last year in the home run derby. Like everyone knows those like all those special talents that he had, but and then he kind of snuck up on some people last year, like, okay, he's a leadoff guy. We got to start treating him like, kind of like Mike Trout. And I don't know if this year he was ready for, that he had to take some off of his aggressiveness because people are using it against him a lot this year. They're pitching him very tough. And I think that, like he's starting to swing the bat a little bit better. I think he had like a couple mechanical flaws. And then the one thing case that no one never really thinks about because the player is human and you can put down any analytical data you want to, no matter how you see it. But playing in T-Mobile Stadium the first 3 months, when you hit a ball in the gap, you
Yeah.
expect it to go off the wall. You expect it to go off the
Oh,
wall
yeah.
over the fence or find some
No,
grass
forget it. Yeah.
and somebody catches it, that's demoralizing. I'm
That's right.
sorry.
That's
You can
right.
put any
Oh,
expected
forget
batting
it.
average on it. You can put whatever you want to put on it. But when guys hit ball well and they don't fall, I don't care who you are. You're not AI. This new intelligence stuff they want to put out there, but you're going to be affected by it
That's
because
right.
of the human
That's right. Your
emotional
ego,
result.
right? Your confidence. If I
Yes,
blasted the crap out of that thing, hit it off the screws, and it ain't going nowhere. And
nowhere,
then
man.
people expect that to just translate on the road, but it's not like that. And then it makes it
No.
worse at home if you treat it that way as a hitter.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I don't care what nobody says. They can say whatever they want to say, but that impacts you a lot,
Yep.
even especially for the new guys that come in to a place like Seattle. And it's like, man, I crushed that ball. And you're already 0 for 3, and you got a man on first and second that could have had a chance to either score some runs, either tie the game or go up, and it's an out. And you're already kind of struggling. That impacts you. You have to fight against that, but it definitely impacts you. And so, I think that's kind of happened a little bit early on. And then you start pressing a little bit. You started pressing a little bit more, especially when the team overall is not playing well. And so, with that being said, I think that's kind of like Julio's kind of took on that. I think the national media has made him like the savior of Seattle
That's
again.
right. Yep.
And that's a lot of weight. That's a lot of pressure for a guy that's 21 years old, man. So, hopefully that now the sun is starting to pop out there a little bit, kind of burn off some of that marine layer. The temperature's going up to like 70 at nighttime now, at least 72, 73 degrees at night. The ball was flying. They hit 3 homers last night. One to left center, two to like center, right center. That doesn't happen in April, May. So hopefully that a lot of that stuff is kind of like helping these guys out where the ball is flying a little bit better. When you hit it well, your expected um, a result or batting average is a lot better, moving forward. But they have a tough challenge ahead because the Texas Rangers are playing very well. Obviously, the old guard of Houston is still there. They got like some, they probably got some little cracks in the chink right now, but they still having a very good
They're right
offensive
there. Yeah. And then the
offensive
deadline,
dynamic.
they're
You
going to
know,
make moves too. They got that
yeah,
system they
like
can
they
work
got
from.
veteran offensive players, man,
That's right.
that know how to get it done
Yeah.
year in and year out. Last
Yep.
7 to 8 years they've been in, right at the top. So
And turning that switch on too. They're used to
yeah,
doing that late in the season. Yeah, I
yeah,
want to ask you. I want to go back to that for a second, but I want to ask you about this because it made me think of it when you said expectations. I was talking about this last week. One of the things that I think, and I don't say this to be condescending, but fans
yeah,
get wrong that I, as a fan, before I really saw it and understood in different sports, players and locker rooms and clubhouses, is fans seem to think that the manager's job usually either deserves too much credit or too much blame. They kind of get it wrong on both sides. And it's always like the first thing to do when a team not going right. And I'm not talking about Seattle here, but I was referring to Buck Showalter last week. And it's like, the Mets are sitting there and they got, Verlander and Scherzer not pitching well. They got,
yeah,
Diaz gone. So everybody kind of, in a wrong seat on the bus. And now the
yeah,
middle relief is all out of whack. And guys weren't hitting off the bat, and now it's Buck's lineup and Buck's and it's I'm just using him as an example.
yeah,
What is it like when you're in a clubhouse and you've been on teams that have been good, you've been on teams that have underperformed.
yeah,
When you're on a team that's underperforming, and now it's harder in social media, Cam, than it even was a few years ago. But
yeah.
when you kind of feel like the managers and coaches are getting the heat. As a player, what is that like? Like, how much accountability are you feeling as a player when you knew in that room, hey, look, guys, we're not doing what we need to do?
Yeah, it's really tough for the team. So it would be really difficult to play in this day and age because of this little thing right here and
Yeah.
social media right at your hands. The biggest thing I think is like a lot of times what people don't realize is that most managers are not really making the lineup, very much now.
Not
There's
anymore.
Yeah, there's a lot of data that's put into, we call it, and Darnell McDonald, we call it the good old computer system that puts you in the lineup or not. So the computer got you today. So I think that's taken in consideration. And
And he
then
one of the best dudes ever, by the way. But go
yeah,
ahead.
that's
Yeah,
my guy.
he's he's
That's my
he's
boy.
he's the best. Yes.
But yeah, like it does add a little bit of um, uh, anxiety towards the player especially when they're not doing very well, and you're supposed to play very well. And there's a lot that's going on. I really feel for the people in New York because it's got to be tough, when you're losing guys, to injury and everything else. And some guys have gotten off to a slow start, and then your big bat is down because he got hit in the hand the other day. So it puts a lot of pressure on everybody else to try to up their level of performance. And when you start to have to add to what is already there, it makes it very difficult to play the game, under that duress. And you already know that some other teams are getting out the gate very well. Um, the lineup and the roster for the New York Mets, it looks like they don't have the right pieces together to plug in and continue to roll like you're supposed to. And I thought that they were really built off of the two big
Yeah, the horses at the
big
front.
aces. Yeah,
Yeah,
the two
and
big
that's the thing.
aces at
How's
the
it
front.
Buck's fault they gave up 10 runs against the Braves? And this is
Yeah,
the
man.
stupidest
Like,
thing ever. It's like, are you kidding me? It's like, and I love
yeah,
Max Scherzer. He gave up 7 runs against San Diego last year in the playoffs. Did Buck do
yeah.
that? Like, what do you think? I mean,
No,
come on, man. It,
it's
it,
tough.
it's it,
It's
it
tough,
is
bro.
to it is to how different. You played in different cities, and
Yeah,
I mean, look, Chicago can be tough, and these are all in different ways,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
but in places like, and I'm not saying this to get on, because I'll get on Skyline Chitty, but I'm not getting on the CINCINNATI Cincinnati. I did that still, but like the Cincinnati, Seattle, like look, people don't understand. Like, you walk into some of these cities, and there's like 6 beat writers, and
yeah,
you'll walk into a place like New York, and there's like 26 guys in there, and you're
yeah,
looking up and you're playing the Marlins, and you're like, why
yeah,
is there this many people in
yeah,
here?
yeah,
How much added pressure was that? Just not because of anything you do, just for anyone who's in that shoes. Try and kind of put me through
yeah.
what the difference is.
The difference is for me, I was fortunate enough to be playing long enough to understand and expect it. Also to experience it by playing in postseason play,
Yep.
which kind of helps you on a daily basis. The one thing that that allowed me to kind of like be able to not have the anxiety with amongst a lot of media members is to understand that like they have a job to do, and you're not gonna like everything they write about you because the stroke of the pen can carry the mind a long ways from a fanatical standpoint.
Yep.
And obviously you can't really fool the people in New York either. So not to say you can't fool anybody anywhere else, but like the knowledge and the history and understanding the game. Sometimes a lot of people, they understand it a little bit better from the typical fan. But just me, the one thing I always try to do is just try to be truthful about whether I stunk or not. I didn't try to make no excuses about it, and kind of go with it from there and continue to work hard, man. Even the short little stay that I spent in New York, it was a change in experience for me because you have to be on all the time. Like and I think we can speak no other than Derek Jeter being on all the time. He didn't share a lot of information because his play displayed, the way he was, and you got to be able to take the good with the bad, man, because the Big Apple can lift you or it could sink you very quickly. But just dealing with that media every single day can be anxiety for some people. Look, it got to me my first couple of months over there. I was getting booed from the time my foot hit the top step, but I didn't think I got booed more than Kaz Matsui when we was
No,
playing over there.
nobody
So.
got booed more than Kaz Matsui, who then, by
The
the
only
way,
other person that may got booed that much was Ronnie Sedano.
uh, which is crazy because in his first stint he stole like 9 million bases and was great, and then
Yeah,
he brought him back and
yeah,
it was like he was Ronnie, to where'd you go? But
right, Ronnie
it's funny because
Sedano.
I remember standing in I remember covering in 2000 and I think it's 2007. The
Yeah,
Rockies and the Phillies were in the first round of the postseason,
yeah,
and I'm in Philadelphia covering it. And I remember I went up because it was in the late innings, and I wanted to go up and go into Ashburn Alley and go get some food before we had to do post game. And
mhm,
Kyle Loesch is on the mound, and I'm watching now from the outfield, eating like some kind of cheesesteak,
yeah.
and here's a bases loaded, and Kaz Matsui hits a great. He almost hit a grand slam like to me. I was in the outfield, and I'm sitting there thinking, where the hell was this dude like 3 years ago? It's like,
it,
what? It's
it,
amazing. Change of scenery. Those are real thing.
yes,
I mean, but
true.
he came in and they expected like, I mean, and I just mean it's just it is what it is. They expected like it was like Ichiro was coming in,
Yeah,
and it's like
exactly,
that
exactly.
was that's not what he was.
No,
Then they
not
played
at
him
all.
at a position he couldn't play. So I mean, there were
True.
things that weren't his fault, but I mean, this guy was great at like opening day and getting hit
Yeah.
by pitches, and that was about it.
Yeah, man. You're right. You're
I mean,
right.
it
I
was it
got a
was
chance to see
but
that.
but
It's so
what's
crazy.
funny is the pressure. So we talk about change of scenery. I admire guys who are the same everywhere, like you were, the same everywhere they go, right? Like, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
you're bringing you to different places and then figuring out how to adjust into that. And I bring
yeah,
this up because, Kutch gets his 2000th hit, a couple of days ago now.
man.
And I mean, can you do it more right than this guy does it on the
You know,
field, off the field, in every community? The way he
yeah,
handles himself, the way his career's gone, the way everybody wrote him off, and then he writes himself back in and adjusts and creates. I mean, just how much respect and admiration do you have from one guy as a guy? Because look, I mean, Kutch used to certainly, earlier in his years, patrol with the best of them too out in
yeah,
the outfield. But just talk
yeah,
about how different that dude is in terms of the way he's carried himself, really start to finish, Cam, in his career.
yeah. Talking about Kutch, man, obviously I was in Milwaukee when he was kind of making his debut, so I was kind of like on my last 3, maybe 4 years or whatever it may have been, and to see him come in, man, and knowing that the Pittsburgh at that time was getting like every number one pick, so to see Kutch come in, I was like, okay, they got a dude that can be electric over here. He's gonna, he's a center fielder, he's a leadoff guy, he can run, he's got pop. We didn't know he was going to turn into an MVP guy type of guy, but that's what he was. And to be able to gracefully, go through your career, to have your ups and downs, and still get opportunities to come back. Obviously, it speaks to his character for one, and what he does on and off the field. Because believe it or not, teams are looking for people who can come in, not only help mentor their younger guys coming along, but also be a contributor still in a way that can help you win ball games. I mean, he went to New York. Went played for the Yankees a little bit. And then he went to some other places that were like big time, franchises or organizations or whatever. So, and then he finally gets a chance to say, hey, you know what? This made me the best opportunity for me now is to go back home where I'm comfortable at. I know I have to I think he said he still lives there. Um, his family gets a chance to see him every day. There's a certain comfort in that. And the fact that, what Pittsburgh is like starting to put together, they're not quite there yet, but they're starting to put some players on the field that can compete, especially in the Central Division and
Yep.
in the NL. So and then, obviously coming up on milestones like he's come up on, man, is huge.
It's
I mean, the guy,
amazing. It's amazing.
2,000 hits, bro. You know how many hits that is?
It's a lot. It's and
Man,
look, great sports town. That
yeah,
stadium is to me as
yeah.
beautiful as
The
any there is in a
people it's
park
one of the best
in
stadiums
the
in
league.
baseball.
Oh, and for
It's
aesthetically
y
looking at it, it's
yeah,
like you just sit there when you're at home at play. I mean, forget it. It's gorgeous. And
it's the
that
best.
bridge, the Clementi
It's the
Bridge,
best
walking
place.
over there to get. I mean,
Yeah, man.
I love that place.
Yeah,
I love that scene. That I don't even know how many times I watched on social media where he stepped out of the box his first AB back there in that
yeah,
uni again. I mean
yeah.
that was
That's a great, great feeling. It's a great feeling that you can't really explain because the appreciation the people have for you. Wherever you go. Like I'm sure he's come back as a visitor there,
yes.
playing in Milwaukee, obviously playing in Milwaukee and coming back there.
Yep.
But to be able to come back to a place where you're revered and they respect you, it's it's a comforting feeling. And then to start off, having the season that he's having, um, is even a more of a blessing. And then you're starting to see the people come back out to see people play in Pittsburgh, which is a very good sign in the game, man. When you starting to, the people are starting to come back out because your team
Yeah.
is
Oh,
doing
they
starting to
deserve
do
and they
amazing
deserve it
things.
because they're
Yeah,
earning it too, and you want those kids
exactly.
to be able
Exactly.
to have that. I want to a couple more things I want to hit with you. One is we're coming up here and a happy early Father's Day coming up this
Yeah.
Sunday.
Yeah.
Um, it's a different dynamic when you play a sport for a living and your son grows up watching you do it and now
Yeah.
is when I say follow in your footsteps and your son Daz now in the Orioles system following in your
Yeah.
footsteps of being a professional athlete because to me it doesn't matter if it's same position different position has the
Yeah.
same attributes looks the same smile because some of that's the same but you
Yeah.
know what I mean it's like it's following
Yeah.
the footsteps of being a professional athlete what of the from what you can share, what are the conversations like over the last calendar year as you try and take him into what your headspace was like in times where you needed to kind of stay the course? Because he's gonna get there, but it's
Yeah.
not easy. I mean, that's
Yeah.
why the
Yeah.
1% of the 1%, what's that been like for you? And how do you separate, dad Mike Cameron, right, with Daz, to
Yeah.
hey, you're in player development for a reason. This is what you do. You've been there.
Yeah.
How do those two things kind of work in the same line over the last year or so with Daz?
It's tough sometimes, Case, because I understand the business part of it. I understand the business. It's frustrating at times because I know the game, and I thought that uh, last year was tough, man. Just being in Detroit was tough because I felt like Detroit wasn't going anywhere, and he needed to be playing to find out if he can play or not. And, when he got an opportunity to play, he ended up getting COVID from Adam Meadows, and then he never got back up there for a while. So, and he was playing well. And I always share the numbers with him, man. I can get all the numbers that you possibly can get, and I share them, about different things and, this, that, and the other. But for the most part, I think he's gotten to the point now where he understands it. He's 26 now. He thinks he's old, obviously. That's kind of the way they treat the game now. If you're not 22 to 25, they don't think you can play in the big leagues or whatever if you're not already there anyway. And I just told him, I said, the only thing, probably the biggest thing that you can do as a player, no matter how much you get frustrated with, if you got talent, somebody's always going to find you. You just have to find out how to take that talent and find some consistency in your talent. like I know a lot of guys go to these different hitting swing coaches, different things in all season that think that puts them over the edge right at the top. I said, but it still comes down to you can do all those different things or whatever, but the consistency of your game still has to show up, and that's what make big leaguers. I said, and then also the opportunity. I said your opportunity may be limited this year. I didn't particularly like the fact that Baltimore plucked him off of the, when Detroit took him off the roster because I understood that they have two guys in the top 100 in the outfield. They're loaded in the outfield over there. But he does bring a special a special talent there because he can do everything. It just he hasn't been able to prove it at the big league level enough. And so I say you just got to use it to your advantage. By you playing with some of these guys, I think they have the I know they have the best record in AAA, but I don't know about the minor leagues. Their AAA team is loaded. I said that's only going to elevate the way you have to play on a daily basis.
That's right.
That's how the big leagues is every
Iron
day.
sharpens iron for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I say when you look around and you see the top 100 guys, like okay, they may be 2 years younger or whatever it may be, but you got big league time. You know what it's like to do this. So I don't need you to be getting upset. When they promised him that he's going to play 4 out of 6 games, and and it didn't happen early on in the season. So he's frustrated. So he's trying to still get these hits and chasing hits. And I'm like, bro, it's going to be hard to do when you're chasing hits, when you're not playing every day. I mean, it's hard enough to hit every day anyway. But when you're not playing every day and you're chasing hits, you're gonna have a lot of disappointments. So let's focus on, as they always call it, more of the process of what you're trying to do. You're trying to make your skill set better. You're trying to get your strike zone judgment knowledge a little better. Hey, and I'm not saying you got to be great at this. I'm just saying that you have to be much better at it. You also have to be in the big leagues when you throw the ball in the middle of the plate, they don't miss it very often. They miss it, but they don't miss it very often. And you have to be able to find some way in your game to understand that hey, I'm not playing every day. You know what? Look at it I always try to look at it from this perspective. You're not playing every day. That means your legs are going to be better. You're going to get to observe a little bit. There's nothing like playing all the time to evaluate your skill set yourself, but when you get a chance to do it on a daily basis from the perspective of where you are, like those other 2 days that you're not playing, or you may DH one day or whatever it is, you have to be able to consume yourself in understanding that this may be helping my body in the long run. I won't be so worn out like later on in the year, but you have to perform when you get the opportunity to perform. I hate to put that pressure on you, but that's just the way it is, son. That's part of the business. And I think he's starting to understand that now. And since after that first month, man, and a couple of those guys got hurt, almost thought he was gonna go to the big leagues before they signed when when uh when they signed gosh, what's his name from the Yankees? Switch hitter.
Oh, I know you're talking about too. Oh gosh. No, no. Oh, Aaron Hicks.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah,
My
that's all right.
mind's
That's all right.
but they signed Aaron Hicks, and for a minute I was like, hey, okay, their two left-handed guys are hurt. Their two top prospects are hurt. He's just not on the roster. So, Daz, he can play center field in the big leagues every day. I got no problem with that. Offensively, we don't know where he is until you get a chance to get out and to show
You need
that
the reps.
performance with him.
You need the
Yeah,
reps.
yeah.
And yeah,
And,
it's the
and
same thing from a oh, go ahead, Cam. Sorry about that. Go
Uh,
ahead.
but but just in that perspective, I told him, I said, by the way you're playing right now, you probably deserve to be in the big leagues. But because they have so much talent up there, you probably can go up there and be the second best defensive player behind the guy who's already won a couple gold gloves and a couple silver sluggers up there. But yeah, you just have to be where your feet are, man, and just kind of go, play the game and keep playing it. And don't worry about what your time frame is, because whenever your time is, it's going to happen for you. You're going to always get a chance to play in the big leagues because of your last name. you just have to continue to want to do that as much as you want to, and just try to use some of the energy that you when things are not going according to like you wanted them to go. Just try to use that energy in a positive mindset, man, and continue to play the game that you love. Everything that you love ain't gonna be all peaches and cream. So
Yep.
you just have to stay with it, man, and keep going. If you love this game like that, then you keep working and continue to get better and enjoy what it brings to you, and it's not going to be great every single day. And so he's really focusing on that, and his season has really turned around and taken off. And I said, look, there's a 29 other teams beside the Baltimore Orioles, and people are looking for guys that can play. I said, you may not be an everyday big league baseball player, but the goal is still to get to the big leagues. And when you have to keep that in your mindset when you're going through these certain trials and tribulations while you're down there in AAA.
Somebody gave me a quote years ago. It said, "You've been assigned this mountain to show others it could be moved." And
Yes.
sometimes that's what the obstacles are there for. Because when you come
Yeah.
out the other side of that, it's going to be well worth it. And you'll understand why that was your journey. And I'm sure that's going to be the case for Daz. I want to ask you
Yeah.
one more before I let you run. I appreciate all this time. But
Yeah.
something that to me, nobody ever talks about. We always talk about analytics. You mentioned the computer.
Yeah.
And we always think about for pitchers or for hitters. And you were such a terrific outfielder and outfield and fielding in general, but as I'm specifically talking about the outfield,
Yeah.
has also changed a lot where you've got, people pulling cards out of back pockets and, move 2.7, tenths to the right and all this other kind of stuff is going on. And I'm just curious because I know you work with kids a lot. Obviously, your
Yeah.
son's an outfielder as well. How much has it changed from the outfield standpoint in terms of all the analytics? Like, how much from a fielding perspective in the outfield are you feeling in today's game the differences with all of that?
Man, it's changed dramatically. I learn with the best computer that you can possibly have, and that's my eyes and my mind. Those numbers that they put out now just justify what I've already seen. Um, it's it's difficult sometimes. I understand it helps, with knowing where I think we go off the card so much that we forget about the guy who's on the mound and the person who's actually hitting at that particular moment. I call it, I guess they call that right now liquid analytics.
Mm-hmm.
So those things happening right then and there before your eyes may not be on the card, but I do understand the reason why they're using it. I just, I don't think it's an end all be all, and that what kind of makes it a little difficult for me to be able to do it. I've never had to use a card. I probably didn't start using a card until I got to Milwaukee, like in 2008 or something like that. And I was like, all right, I won't make it bad since, I know how to play this position front and back, my eyes closed, and probably still can play it now, just watching what transpire, over the course of time. And you have to still make in-game adjustments that sometimes the card just don't display. And I think that's part of the problem today is that we're so self-reliant on the computer to do everything. It almost looks like, yeah, some of the athleticism is kind of taken away a little bit. But once again, like I said, I do understand it. I know it's a very big factor in the game. It's not going to go away anytime soon. Um, I don't. I think they use some of those numbers to grade really good outfielders in a bad perspective sometimes. Also, just because you don't throw a certain mile an hour or you don't get the greatest first step jump, whatever it may be. And they're giving out awards based on, like some of these numbers. And I think it kind of waters down like the real guys that can play, the positions in the outfield or whatever. So, but I still, although we have all the analytical data and everything else, I still tell the guys the best way to get better as an outfielder is during batting practice when your mind is clear, there's no game going on, and you can just focus on seeing the ball come off the bat, the flight of the bat, the different angles that you have to take, the different things that I try to do to emulate the game. Maybe trying to run it for a certain amount of time and catch the ball back over my left shoulder with my face facing the wall. Different things that you can do that when you're totally relaxed, your body allows you to do it. That if you do these things enough, they come into they do come into play during the game sometime because this is what you're training your body to respond to and understand and everything. You don't have to do it anymore. Guys play deep all the time. They probably play 10 steps from the warning track. When I was coming along, it was about get close as you can in and try to go back and
That
be able
Paul
to.
Blair, like shallow center field
Yeah,
style,
yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah,
gone.
yeah.
Now everybody coming
Yeah.
in.
Nah,
Everybody
nah,
coming in.
because everyone is trying to get the ball
Everybody
up in
coming
the
in.
air.
Yes.
And so you don't have to play in no more. You just concede those hits or whatever. Because the computer says if you can stop the ball from getting a double, the win probability goes up a whole lot with less than 2 minutes. There's so much, man. But the game is still the game. We just added a lot more different trinkets and everything else. I just wish that guys will understand that those numbers are there for you to for it to be factual, so to speak, but it doesn't make it what you're seeing at the moment. You have to be able to do that because it's still the human nature of the game. The human makes the numbers. Those numbers are not there if these humans are not doing this stuff. So, and these humans have feelings and all different perspectives and whatever. I get into it with guys. I call them the khaki boys, the iPad khaki boys. We get into it all the time because, it's like they don't believe certain things come into play in the game. It's like, man, when you play this game that you've been learning to play for so long, it hasn't changed a little bit. We can go put analytics on the 8-year-old field down there,
That's
whatever, but
right.
the kids are gonna
You
the
can't
kids are the ones.
calculate mindset. You
No,
can't
no, you
calculate
can't.
attitude. You can't
Can't.
calculate character.
You can't.
And at the end of the day, when it's 3-2 and that pitcher and that hitter are buckling down, it's going to be about those two humans,
Yep,
right?
exactly. The competitive side of it. And I constantly remind my kid this all the time, and I constantly remind guys all the time, "Hey, man, well, he said, well, he don't throw a slider in this count or this." I say, "Bro, use your mind and what you're seeing over the course of the game sometimes." Like, I was just in Tulsa right now with our double A squad, and one of the guys like, well, like he's got a nasty slider. He throws. I said, I'm watching the game. He ain't thrown the slider for a strike yet. So why are you worried about it? He's going to throw it anyway, but he's not throwing it for strikes.
Now, was that as
Yeah,
easy when you were chasing sliders?
hey, I chased a lot of sliders. I chased a
You hit
whole
a
lot of
bunch
sliders.
too. You hit a
Hey,
bunch too. You better
so
not hang them.
I know, like whatever
You
you're
better
going
not
through
hang
right
them.
here, I tell my kids all the time. I
Oh,
tell my son,
don't
I don't
swing.
care what you're going through on the baseball
Yeah.
field. I've been through it.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
done it
Oh,
all.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I've done it all, bro. I may be the only guy to hit 4 homers in a game, and then a year later strike out in 26 straight games. So like
That's all right.
I
Nobody remembers that. They just remember the 4 homers
exactly,
in a game. I forgot. I
exactly.
didn't know
So
that.
like it's so
We only know
crazy.
the 4 jacks in a game. That's all that matters. Hey,
Yeah,
hey.
exactly, bro.
That's
So I tell like, man, there's so many different elements and things that go on to take place. Like, start using like those little pieces to be able to help you calm your mind down to perform at a level that your skill set allows you to perform at. It took me some time to learn that, man. Like, I feel like I didn't have a sense of where my game was until I got to 1999. I was looking at some old tapes that people said. I was looking at myself when I played with the White Sox, and bro, I didn't have a clue what was going on. I was looking at the other day. I'm like, what are you swinging at? Like some of the stuff I used to swing at,
because
like
you
being
figure
a
it out on the fly a lot, right?
yeah,
I mean, but
yeah,
that also helps. To your point, going back full circle
true,
with Daz, having
true,
more looks at it, right? Whether it's in the
true.
outfield, no matter what you do, everybody tries to make baseball. It's like, I have no idea how any of you guys hit 98 miles an hour, but I can
Yeah,
tell you that I know, so does everybody else listening or watching, what it's like to struggle at something over and over again and try and figure it out. And if
yes,
you don't struggle at something over and over again, you ain't never going to figure it out.
you
That's
never
that
gonna figure
easy.
it out.
You gotta
You
fall on
never
that
gonna
bike until you learn how to ride it. I don't care what it is, no matter
exactly,
what level it is.
exactly, exactly. It was so. you know, it was so frowned upon when I was playing about the strikeout, and I used to worry about striking out so much. Shit, I was so worried about striking out. I'm swinging at balls
Well,
anyway. You know what
nowadays,
I'm
I mean,
saying?
nowadays you wouldn't be worried at all. Nowadays, you know you're
Exactly.
going to make contact. They'd be like, "You had 4 home runs in a game. Here's some zeros."
Exactly, Case. But
Cam, I
man, you know,
appreciate you, man. This was fantastic, dude. I'm
always,
so
man.
thankful for you doing this. It's always great to catch up. Happy Father's Day again. Enjoy. If I don't talk to you before then, enjoy the time out in at T-Mobile, and
I'm
you know,
definitely gonna do
you're trying to keep Harold's staff more athletic.
that. Exactly. Bring a little bit
I
of
mean,
athleticism
you
to
could
you.
still right now. I mean, you face Jamie in like an AB like today, he could throw 50 and probably still get people out. I have
He
a
can.
feeling.
He
I
definitely
no,
can.
I'm convinced.
He definitely can.
I'm totally convinced of that.
He
Like,
definitely can.
yeah,
He
I think
definitely
he could
can. I
still
don't know
get
his
people out.
reaction time will be
No,
very
I don't
good
know if
though.
he. I don't know, want him to field the ball. Can't appreciate you, bro. Thank you.
Hey, happy Father's Day to you, Case. See
You
you
too,
soon, brother.
buddy.
All
Episode
right.
187 in the books is always unfiltered.